So, hello everyone. I'm Ernesto Caleri. This is Barbara Wardell, and she's controlling the camera, so that's why she's a little distracted. And we're the co-founders of Caleri and Wardell. We're an international and national geofencing ad agency, and we specialize in helping small businesses go from small to big, from big to bigger, and from good to great. And today we're speaking with Ian Crist, a very good client of ours, someone we've worked with over the last 6 to 8 months. And he's a new, he just opened up his laundromat. So without further ado, let me introduce Ian so he can introduce himself. Hey, Ian.
Ian.
Hey, guys. Thanks for the introduction there.
Why don't you give us some of your background and tell us how you came to open Kenton Laundromats?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So background for me is more of real estate actually focused. I've been a broker working with investment type real estate going on 8 years now. And that's where kind of like my passion for just investments, kind of looking at, passive income, just investing, running a business. And about 3 years ago, I really got interested in laundromats. I came across this one in a smaller town outside of where I grew up. And I started really looking into it, Googling, YouTubing, podcast listening, consuming content essentially. And figured I was like, this is actually kind of cool. It's, it still is a business, but it's also, kind of a little bit, similar to a little bit more passive once you kind of get it set up and, properly operating it. That was my mindset then, of course. So didn't end up purchasing that one. It was for sale, but I always had this kind of like tick for it. And then when interest rates for real estate, about a year and a half ago, really started going through the roof, that's about the same time I was really liking or wanting to move forward with, a purchase or investment on my side of things, and just nothing was penciling. And so I really started going back into the laundromat idea. And so just kind of like bird dogging like I would for, deals in real estate and things like that. I started just going into every laundromat around Portland here, and walked into one, and there was, half the machines were out of order, and it said, machine out of order, call this number. And so I just called it, and sure enough, one ring, and it was the owner, and basically, said, hey, I'm not doing any laundry here, but just calling to see, if you have any interest in selling laundromat. And basically, he was like, you make me a good offer, I will assign you a lease. And so I was like, oh, you're the building owner and the operator of the laundromat. He's like, yeah, I'm about done with laundry side, but if you give me a good lease, I'll sell you the laundromat. And so we got into some kind of back and forth kind of negotiation on price. Got into some of their loosely done numbers.
Mm-hmm.
For what they were actually doing, and then purchased it, closed on it actually March 1st of last year. So just about a year ago now, when I closed on that laundromat, the Kenton Laundromat there.
Wow, so exciting.
Yeah, a lot of a lot of a lot of work getting into it, just how I structured the deal and things like that. But yeah, it was cool, and didn't know what I was getting into when I actually closed on it. So yeah, it was really cool.
People come to us often for foot traffic study when they're looking at purchasing a laundromat or any retail business. And generally, they inquire or engage us to determine what the mobile traffic is to that shopping center or to that individual location. So I know you have a background in real estate and investment. How did you yourself determine, because at that point you and I and Barbara were not yet engaged to work together. So how did you determine what would be a good deal for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so I started actually just looking at, like I said, with the numbers of the laundromat, kind of like what they were doing, and I put together in my kind of like Excel spreadsheet what a cost per visit would be based on how much they were doing. And so yeah, I was kind of figuring, this is about the average price or revenue that one person is going to generate. Then I kind of like averaged out, per day, per month, this is how many people are coming through a day. And then I really just kind of like, just knowing the area, it's in a really good little kind of like, well, it's a really known area in Portland that I was familiar with. And so I looked at the competitors. I looked at a lot of just kind of like density maps, just kind of like multifamily versus residential density within, a half mile, a mile out. And then really just did like boots on the ground, going to laundromats around just to see what the actual foot traffic looked like. And that was my real kind of like just guerrilla approach. I really trying to get an idea of kind of like what I could expect, what I, how many people I think are coming through as it is, stuff like that. And yeah, because before we got connected and things like that, I had more sophisticated ways of going about tracking these, numbers of visits and, the analytics of how many people are actually could come to laundromat. It was really just looking on random websites, boots on the ground, kind of stuff like that, and figuring out if they're doing this many people today, I think I could get it to this many people in a year, 3 years at this price per visit. That should make sense.
Wow, you
So it
did
was,
a lot of due diligence on that. That's great. To know what a customer is worth, that is the one of the best things that you can do for your business.
absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of metrics that could be a little bit like crude in terms of just like a turn, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I wanted to see more or less what, an actual visit was versus just 30 machines being run and calling it a turn or something like that.
Gotcha. Now, did you engage with a distributor? Did you upgrade your equipment? And in terms of your ground game, when you did open your store, um, like what did you find was critical to start doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely started working with a distributor in the due diligence process because I figured if I was going to buy this, what would be, kind of a rundown, laundromat, um, I'm going to do it right, and so I'm going to have to redo, the ceilings were kind of falling in, the walls were getting, the concrete mortar was like being, crumbled, and all the machines were basically need to be replaced. So I knew very early on, I was like, I'm going to have to replace some, if not all these machines. And so I started reaching out to a couple of distributors, and they really did help kind of build out the floor plan, build out, how many machines we might need, and then build that new cost per visit based on my new then prices and things like that. And that was incredibly helpful because up to that point, I was kind of doing the same numbers. So it was really good to find somebody who kind of like was able to help me figure out, kind of like the mix of machines. And so yeah, that was a huge part of kind of getting the doors back open. I mean, with the distributor there, once we were open, the critical piece to getting open is what I'm still working on right now, was just training the customers. I mean, that laundromat had been there for 30 years. Those machines had been there for 30
Yes.
years. And we put brand new state of the art, all new washing machines with card readers, all the bells and whistles on it. And then all my dryers have card readers on it now. And this has been a coin only operated store for 30 years. So the integral part about getting it open, and now I'm really starting to finally see some actual like recurring business of actually knowing how to use the machines, is educating the customers on the new processes, the new machines, things like that.
From an operations standpoint, did you change your ground game at all? Meaning, Barbara and I did a consult yesterday, and for they engaged us to do some geofencing for them, and their store was a little older, so we kind of pointed out like, hey, we can use this technology, our methodology, our algorithms to bring you a lot of new business, but if you're not operating it, differently than your competitors, in that you're not keeping it cleaner,
Yes.
right, and that whole customer experience,
Experience.
you're not gonna, Barbara always says like they're not we'll send them there, but they're not gonna stay.
It's a promise, right? When we advertise, we're making a promise. You have to keep that promise to get them to be loyal, right? Because you want anyone to that you're making that promise. You want them to keep it, right? So it's very important.
So in terms of your
Absolutely.
ground game, what did you do?
Well, that's the nice thing about, I would say, like my location is a little more tucked in like a shopping center. So a lot of the customers that are coming through there are repeat, customers. And so, like you kind of said, making that promise is very important, especially with the new store owner. It's like this is my first chance, to kind of like, get the people that have been coming there for the past years, and the new people that, that were coming to check out for the first time via the geofencing, the Google ads, all the different, all the different marketing channels that I, started right away from day one once I did open the doors. because that promise that I'm making from day one, saying, hey, this is new ownership, the previous problems, the previous issues, your coins being eaten, being people in the store watching you. I mean,
I
it's
love
it's
that.
all the problems, and there's a lot of them, especially when you get a store run down. It's like, people are excited. So it's like the bar all of a sudden went from basically nil to all the way up. And and I want to, like, obviously, I want to please the customers and keep them reoccurring, because I mean, you know how it goes. You wake up and you get that 1-star review because somebody got all bent out of shape because the chip machine ate, a quarter. And I'm like, so the ground game was really just being the face of the business, especially still right now. I can't tell you how many people that I've just, good people that have appreciated the store being turned over, people that came up for the first time, and be like, wow, this is such a nice laundromat. There's actually somebody here that's helping me. So I would say the ground game is really just, for right now, just really me kind of like, getting the business and being the operator and showing the community, hey, I'm here to do good and not just leave it unattended and be some social hangout,
Right.
So
Yeah, that it
yeah.
now for is what kind of from once you got in and you were doing all the retooling and stuff, did you actually what kind of work took to do all that?
Quite a bit.
Okay,
Yeah, because most
just
people
kind
think
of
it's like passive income. And
yeah,
Barbara, every
and
time
just
Barbara and I speak to someone, they're like, that's not really reality.
utility
So, and
because
there's
I
a
looked
lot,
into getting three, and
that's actually how we ended up forming Kaleri and Wardell.
yes. So I understand that there's a lot of work to that. So just kind of summarize it in a way that, that kind of puts them kind of in your space at that moment.
What's
For
reality?
what's reality for running the
Yeah.
laundromat? Yeah, I mean, it's it's definitely not passive. That's the thing that I think that, like you said, Barbara, a lot of people like think it's like, oh, it's a laundromat. You never need to go in there. You never need to. But the systems and the processes is really what makes it as most passive-esque as you can get it. There's a couple different, obviously, models you can go: attended, unattended, and things like that. But either way, somebody has to go in there to flip the out of order sign on. Somebody has to do, there's the minor things. So running a laundromat really starts from just kind of like the bare essentials, and then getting how complex you want your laundromat to be. Cleaning it. It needs to be cleaned. I mean,
Very
like,
much so, because who wants to go into a dirty laundromat? Come on. I mean,
yeah,
take out your clean clothes out of a dryer and
balls on a ball of hair. Yeah, nobody wants to come in again.
and
Exactly.
right maintenance on the machines, right? In case one's down, that's money out of your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, and then on top of the refund, because, somebody's going to want their money back, and things like that. So yeah, it's, it's definitely keeping, this place clean. I mean, I only have a 2,000 square foot spot, and I put 85 new lights in the place, because
Wow.
Yeah,
who wants to
that's
go into
good.
a dim, exactly, who wants to go into a dim laundromat, but
No,
definitely,
brightness is
It's like a
important.
casino. It's like a casino in there. It's like
oh,
we have oxygen pumping
Coming in,
in. We
keep them
got
awake.
got
See,
85 new lights. We
like
have
a casino.
like a subtle noise of slot machines in the background.
the thing is, I'm really not trying to have people stay there for that long. That is the actual truth of the matter. I'm trying to get people in and
And
out,
out. Flip those machines a spin.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I have an empty warehouse next door that maybe would have like a little Dottie's over there, a little sandwich and, slot machine kind of like parlor, but laundry,
Yeah, make a good synergy.
that's
Yeah.
future. That's future. Yeah, we'll talk about starting that business maybe in a couple of years now. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, if it's those new bright lights and everything, they see the dirt. So the
Oh,
first thing
absolutely.
it's just the most obvious things. You walk, you're like, man, this place is dirty. It's like, well, it's just as clean as it had been. You just have more light in here. So I just need to be that much more on top of it. And then the machines. Yeah, it's the worst thing in the world when you see I have a request for maintenance that comes through my app that I really, really, push a lot of the customers to. And there's nothing worse than seeing that, a dryer's out of order again, or, one of the machines is out of order, or whatever the case may be. Because
Well,
it's,
oh,
time and money.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
What
ahead.
would you do different now than when you first started?
That's actually a great question, because now we're kind of like, almost like I said, 1 year in. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I think it's definitely a learning. I mean, a piece of learning that I was well educated on before in terms of the content that I was consuming. But I went into laundromat purchase with the idea, kind of a philosophy that I try to look at broadly. Because if you're going to do something, spend time doing it, might as well do it right.
I
And
agree.
so that's why I was like, new equipment, new store, new everything. Let's just not, this is going to be, we're going to do it, let's do it right. So the thing that I really learned is that, and it's not a lot of people push on a distributor, is I did retool the entire store. And I thought, that was definitely, he gave me two bids, one for like a half retool, one for a full retool. And in my just very, straight linear thought process of let's do it right. Let's just knock it all out at once. We're going to retool. We're going to turn all the machines over. We're going to mitigate problems because everything's going to be pretty much brand new. And in hindsight, I obviously interest rates and financing equipment, whatever what I had to finance out of that purchase because I did go the over, the full gut, the full
Yeah.
retool was obviously I was going to have to finance some of that, and interest rates were so high. And so for me, I thought that was going to be, and I still do think that's a nice moat because when I come in and I have all new machines and the few laundromats that are competing with around me, they're older machines. And so for them to get to my level now, they're going to have to do the exact same thing I just did was pay high machine costs and high interest rates if they're going to try to just get to my level. So that's why I was like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right because it's going to be expensive for me, but it's going to be such a high barrier for the next year or two with interest rates being where they're going to be at that nobody's going to want to do where I'm at. Otherwise, you're going to pay cash.
Right.
So that was my thought process. And so I still think, like I said, a year ago, Ian's mentality, I was still in the right. But now a year later, to answer your question, I think that I probably could achieve what I needed to achieve with maybe a half store retool. And so I think that, I would have saved obviously, I'll be saving money on my debt service monthly. I think that I would be able to, push more customers into blending them a little bit between the old machines, the new
Two
machines,
machines.
pushing the nice new ones versus just hard stop. Here's new machines, learn it or leave,
Right.
And I think that's probably the one thing. Everything else I think has definitely gone, a little bit harder, but kind of according to plan. The full retool, I think as I'm getting a year in right now and I have to look back, is probably the one thing I maybe would reconsider.
Okay. That is awesome. That's great advice.
Are there any tools? I think you said you were using an app to help you manage some things. Are there any tools that you feel, a new laundry operator should use? And by the way, Barbara and I have found that a lot of new operators are bringing a lot of great ideas to an industry that really hasn't seen a lot of different thought processes or procedures put in place. So I think a lot of people would find this conversation very valuable. And but what tools do you think have been really beneficial for you that you would recommend to other small business owners or laundromat owners or both?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of tools, just going more modern is obviously where things are going, digital. And I think there's kind of two ways of really looking at that. One is going to be just how to help the consumer be, more ease of process. What are we trying to do? If it's a transaction, how can we make the transaction easier? How can, how can I make it easier for basically to get that money from them to basically us? And so for laundry specifically, using an app is very, very, very efficient because we can do incentives through it. So it's like if you put $10, I'll give you $15 in credits or something like that. It's very efficient in terms of, for me getting a maintenance request, machine number 40 is down, took 850. Here's my request for vend. I send it right back to them. And I've been, pretty happy with the adoption rate. We have already 75% of the income is switched over to app or mobile pay, which has been great. And we have right now 240 clients accounts on our actual mobile app.
That's
And so
great.
those are what I consider reoccurring. And I mean, we've been open about 9 months now because when I bought it, we closed for 3 months in the retool, which took way longer than anticipated. That was that was a hard lesson also. But the app is very, very efficient. And I think that, the feedback that I've gotten is phenomenal on that. I mean, a machine can still eat a quarter based on if the sensor gets a little ajar or whatever is going on with the wire in there, gets, banged around. but the app always works. And so that's the nice thing about that, is that I feel like the tool that I'm using and finding the most success, but just the way people are paying, and also with just like the way that I've seen people interact with it when I'm talking to them, is the use of the app. The next thing is how to get people in how to get people in. Because I think making the transaction easy, but also making it easy for you to be seen. And I think that's kind of like where I've seen a lot of success, especially with working with you guys and just like the little bit of Google ad spend I do outside of that, and seeing, new customers come in, because those are the customers I'm always educating. They're like, oh, wow, this is awesome. You guys have an app? I'm like, you guys are definitely first time in my store.
That's great.
you know, I want to look at the analytics and see maybe where you came from, in the
Mm,
reports you sent me. But I think for the tools that I'm using is, one, making it easy for the customers, like an app, like I said, or just a mobile pay, whatever, card reader, whatever business you're running. And then for the business itself, as in mine, making it easy for people to find me. So targeted ads, finding ways to just show up in different places that I can't in traditional methods.
gotcha.
Oh, that's great. Tell us about how geofencing has worked for you.
I would say, in terms of just like answering the question, very, very, very well. I was, like I said, it's very apparent when new people walk in the door, because they've never been there, and they're like, how to use this machine? Oh, I've never been here. They're very obviously open once you just greet them. Hey, welcome in, and just from seeing it in person, seeing new customers walk in the door that have never seen it, never been in there, which is actually it's very nice to see how many people come in on a regular basis that are first-time customers. But then the analytics, I would say, are the thing that I really dive into, from the beginning. Like I said, I'm very oriented with an underwriting and the numbers, and so I love digging into like, tracking data, finding out how much like an actual customer coming in the door is worth. And the thing that I've really, really, really liked for geofencing, because like I mentioned in the beginning, I always started my numbers based on how much a customer is worth. On the geofencing side, we can break it down to how much each customer costs,
Yes.
once they come in. And I think that's probably the number one metric I look at in the numbers, because I love seeing the clicks. I love seeing where they're coming from, the weird websites that, that we're finding success
They
through.
are some weird ones.
Very true.
And I'm in a dodgy part of North Portland, so I mean, I'm not too surprised. But at any rate, finding that with that cost per customer coming through, I think for me, really, that's the needle that kind of moves the whole scenario. It's like, is it worth it or not? Because I know what a customer is worth, and if it only costs this much, to bring them the first time, and I can keep them a recurring customer, I mean, that's money well
It's
spent.
compounded, yes.
Yeah.
How do you feel just in the experience with Ernesto and I, far as, handling and just going over the reports and you understanding and your experience with working with us?
Yeah, in terms of working with you guys, I mean, honestly, great, because I really value communication, and sometimes lack of communication is great
Just
communication. No news, good news. So it's like, on the day that you say that the reports are going to be in my inbox, they're in the inbox, and then it's very, very, very nice just to get the raw data like you guys send it. For me, I love looking at stuff that way. So I love just, here it is, here's the numbers, any questions. And there's been a couple of times I reached out, hey, what's this? Why, what's going on with that? And then boom, right away, the communication is right back.
yeah,
And
we
so,
always try.
yeah, I can tell.
One of the things we liked working about you with you is that you told us you retooled the store, and working in the Pacific Northwest has its challenges. Um, Mainly because of the geography. There's lots of bodies of water. People don't always drive in a straight direction to go to a place that's really straight ahead. They might have to drive up a hill, down a hill, which is maybe more like a very big hill, and then over a bridge. So, um,
Over and through the woods.
right into the woods. So there's a lot of geographic, challenges working in the Pacific Northwest, and so we were really happy when we started. We don't want to go into details about numbers and things like that, but we were really happy to see that we were driving consistently high volume of visitors to your store, And there's a lot of stress, as you were kind of pointing out, a lot of things you had to do, ground game, a lot of banking, things you had to address, educating the client. And almost the last thing you want to do is worry about, do I have people coming through the door? So we're very confident in what we do, but we're very happy to see that you're what we would consider a very good success story, because from our now all we're seeing is the numbers. We're seeing the raw numbers of foot traffic that we're sending in. But what we liked most is that for us, it's very rewarding to see that return on investment when it's your money that we're being stewards of.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and the way that it's a good steward of it is because, I mean, honestly, the cost per client,
Client.
per visit goes down. So that just means, a good fiduciary with the money that, we're allocating to the expense. And so, I mean, that's why I think that, especially going back to kind of like the groundwork and stuff like that. I mean, this is not the only laundromat that I want to have. And,
We love to hear that, by the way.
Yeah, we'll grow
I
that
mean,
one as well. We'll grow the new ones as well.
yeah, exactly. Especially if we can string them together, And so, I mean, and I had, interesting enough, in the time that we've worked together, I've had two close friends, colleagues, totally individually in, different towns here in Oregon, talk about buying and starting laundromats or building new ones. And both times, I'm just, the first thing you got to do is get some sort of, study. And I did all this, but you could just call, Ernesto and Barbara, just get a feasibility study, just work on that, just to see realistically what you guys could expect, where you're at. Because they're different markets for me. They're smaller towns outside, kind of Willamette Valley. And I can help you with the business, the processes, the scaling and stuff. But if you don't know how many people you're going to come in the door, like we talked about how important that is, then I don't know how to help you. So I mean, whether it's me going and going to due diligence on the next one, and hopefully working on taking out my competitors around me, or just people who want to get kind of information on what it would even projections. It's like, I think that getting some sort of a foot traffic study through like the geofencing kind of like strategy is almost a must, just to figure out framework, what can I even expect,
Yeah, it's an extensive report, and it gives so much information before you put down all that money. You want to know
Yeah.
what you're getting into. And even with the ones like that you acquired that were a Coinbase, when you actually, as anyone who's purchasing a Coinbase business, there's a number that they're telling you, and then there's the real number of what their business is. So that's why the mobile foot traffic study is very important, because you can see for that whole year what has come in and out and kind of gauge it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the one thing that's always about it with a coin game, like the cash business, where it's just, it you take it for what it's worth, you do your due diligence, you do the coin drops. But
And you
if
want to
you
go
over
outside and click, 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 click.
Yeah, we did
that,
have our buddy Charles Measley, before he got us focused on geofencing a few years ago. We asked him how he would, quantify a business and qualify a business that he wanted to purchase, or a new location. And he said he stood outside with a clicker and
Clicker.
just counted the people in there. I was like, dude, we have this whole thing called satellite technology where we can measure mobile devices going in and out, which is actually a good segue now to actually for us to explain what geofencing is and what a mobile foot traffic study is. So what we specialize in is, as you know, Ian, is satellite-based, GPS-based data, analytics, and advertising. So it starts with the data, it starts with the analytics. So we will look at locations for people who are looking to buy a laundromat, or a location that they plan on putting a laundromat, or really any kind of business. But today we're talking about laundromats. Yesterday we did a consult for an existing client who wanted to dominate his area. He had, just looking at a map, northeast, south, and west, he had two competitors between two of his stores, and he wanted to move westward. So we looked about 3 miles west, and there really was, the suburbs are expanding westward, and we didn't really have any retail locations there for like, there was no existing laundromat to get data on. So we looked at the gas station across the street from where he intended to build, and sure enough, there's tons of traffic going in and out of that gas station. So now we know the location across the street, even though there's no existing retail space there. We do know that if he breaks ground there and puts up his laundromat, that there's plenty of traffic across the street at that gas station. And then we also compared it a block down south to another gas station, and the difference was like 20% less traffic to that location. So we start with data and analytics. We get these, we measure all the devices that are going into a given location, and then we're determining where they come from a half hour before,
Or
half
half
hour
hour after.
after, where they live, where they work. And then we get a very excellent snapshot of how healthy that location is. And then once you're all set up, as you know, we use our satellites to draw virtual fences around buildings. They could be apartments, they could be competitors that we're looking to conquest.
Retail.
Yep, all these places where customers that are like yours would spend their money along the way that they would spend it at your place. And then the great thing about geofencing is once we capture their device, we anonymize their identification so we can continue to measure when they come into your store. And on average, Barbara and I drive 5,000 satellite verified visits every month to our locations all across the country. And now that we're international, we're hoping to bump our volume up to 10. In 2024, our goal really is to drive up to 10,000 satellite verified visits every month for small businesses all across the world.
It's exciting.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I know.
That's a lot. And it's interesting to see kind of like where those, with like which retail stores or which, ATMs they're going to. I mean, and when you see it and you break it down, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. But like when you see like half an hour out, it's very interesting just to kind of see the habits and kind of like,
Yeah.
who your general demographic is. And I mean, really working, I mean, I love business and like looking at businesses and understanding how, different businesses run. And honest, I think it really opened my eyes for like, holy smokes, like this is how like I would go about opening this kind of business where it's just like this kind of like data is what you would need to like analyze any sort of underwriting for any sort of business you're looking at. Like you said, a gas station. If you wanted to put a gas station in 30 minutes before and after, the people that go to this gas station, where are they going from? To. So it's like this would be a good potential location.
It's
And it's just neat to kind of like get spin the wheels on like how you can apply this kind of like technology to just so many different, businesses and small businesses around.
Yeah, it opens up a wide universe for you to really figure out where you want to be and where that traffic is. It's kind of like how McDonald's does or Burger King, right? They do all this due diligence to see where they're going to put their place, and then the other one just copies it, right? Because they're not going to spend the money they already know they did.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
If it's not broken,
yeah,
don't
I
fix
know.
it.
This has been an amazing podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. We wanted to catch up with you. We knew we got great results with you. We wanted to hear what your experience was, and we're glad that you would recommend us, and we're glad we got such fantastic results. We're even more happy that Barbara and I understand we're small business owners ourselves, so we're more happy for you that this has been a great experience, a great ride, and that it's only growth going forward, and that you yourself, and then maybe in collaboration with other partners, are looking to expand. And we believe, as you do, that this is geofencing is a valuable tool for expanding your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like we talked about, there's one laundromat in my crosshairs that I'm looking forward to working with you guys and
Don't
taking
tell
it down.
anybody. Keep it a secret right now.
Well, the great
Yeah.
thing is, as you know, is like, once you're signed up with us, we're exclusive. So it doesn't matter. And the other thing that's also great is that geofencing is so hard to actually pull off. It's not a simple as, turning on a Google ad or a Facebook ad, which everyone has access to, where you're competing head to head with your neighbors and other businesses in your community. This is its own universe, and it's a science unto itself. And that is why, if you look at agencies all across the world, 99% of agencies don't touch geofencing because they can't understand it. So even if we were to give away all the secrets today, for free to everyone,
But we're not. No.
right, it really wouldn't matter, because pulling it off, one, we're exclusive to working with you, and then two, pulling off geofencing is not something that can easily be done. And that's the wonderful part. Just like owning a laundromat is not as simple as turning the lights on. It requires a good ground game and things like that. So,
A lot of
Absolutely. Yeah.
education.
Well said. That's exactly it. And I don't want to spend the time and money to figure out how to do it either. It's money well spent. So
I always look
I,
at it. Is it freedom versus it's
right.
my time?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's an expense, well put on the P&L. So yeah, I've enjoyed working with you guys, and yeah, I'm really, really happy with the results, and really excited for the future as well, just because I've had a really good time just with the results we've gotten.
Awesome.
We appreciate you and giving us a chance to show you what geofencing is all about and what it can do for your company.
Any last words of advice for people looking to open up a new laundromat?
The last piece of advice for opening up a laundromat is pretty much what I was saying in the beginning. Just really understand the market before you go in. Once you open it, really have a good dialed process of how you're going to retain customers. And there's always going to be the ones that have been out of shape. Can't do anything about that. But have a good process on how to have somebody smile in there when they come in the door. Have a process for someone that breaks down, how you're going to give them their money back. And then from there, have a good plan to retain them and get new customers to the door once you have that process going. Such as marketing and figuring out if you're going to have an attendant there, because eventually you got to hire yourself out. So underwrite, keep the customer, and then a succession plan for yourself. So if you're starting a laundromat, you want to have all those pretty well dialed in.
That's great. This was a great education for everyone out there that's looking to get a laundromat or even grow their business. So that is awesome. We thank you so much for, sitting in with us and just taking your time and sharing it.
Totally. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, you guys got it.
We'll catch up soon.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Perfect.
All right.
Take